Welcome to the Self-Care Show with Deidre Sanford. Although holistic and alternative healing methods are becoming more and more mainstream, what method is right for you? How do you find a practitioner once you've chosen to explore an alternative therapy? Each week, Deidre will explore a different modality with practitioners who will explain their modality and the benefits they and their clients have received through their sessions. She and her guests may also offer live readings during the show. Now, your host of the Self-Care Show, Deidre Sanford.
Well, good morning. There you are. It is 10 o'clock on Wednesday, January the 4th of 2023. How did we even get to 2023? I've got no idea. I kind of lost track. You are tuned in and ready to go with the Self-Care Show. Welcome back, everyone. I've missed each and every one of you the past 3 weeks. And again, I have no idea where 2023 went. Does anybody else really know what happened to at least the last month of 2023? I mean, I've got no idea where it all went. It has been 3 weeks since we've all gotten together live here on WLTK-DB. And so much happened, but so much of it seems to have just flown by without kind of being noticed in some way. We were together on the 15th of December with a pre-recorded show, which is something that we had never done before. But we had animal communicator Jan Pepik with us, and she did a live reading. Well, not a live reading, a recorded live reading of our producer Todd's dog, Bobo, and brought out some really sweet things in the relationship between Todd and his dog. I don't know. Did you guys get to see that episode? If not, you can pop over to Self-Care Show on Podbean and watch the replay of that show. It's also available on my website, www.deidrelsanford.com. And then we also, on the 21st, we all took a hiatus, gave Todd some much needed and well-deserved time off to celebrate the holidays with his family. And then on the 28th, Michelle Odom Henderson was scheduled to be a guest on the show for a live reading show. And due to family situations completely outside of my control, Michelle was able to graciously step in and host the show. And she did live readings to help our listeners and viewers understand what might be in the cards for them. And I can't thank her enough for so gracefully transitioning from guest to guest host. She's got her own show as well. You might want to be looking for her too if you want to catch back up. But really, the last 3 weeks seem like such a blur between being in Tampa for an amazing 3-day event with Lisa Williams and WLTK-DB's very own Diet Renee. And then traveling to be with family not once but twice at the last minute. Airplanes have been a big part of my life to wrap up 2022. It's kind of crazy, you know, all the traveling through the holidays or the holiday season even kind of left me a little wonky, a little bit off guard, and feeling as though things are just a blur. I don't know how everybody else landed in their own private worlds on New Year's and the first of the month. But hey, Michelle Henderson, speaking of you, nice to see you this morning. Happy New Year. I'm so glad. Thank you again for showing up and handling that show for me on the 28th. It's crazy. How did we land on the 1st of January, 2023? Since things seem like such a blur, at least for me personally, pop your info in the chat. Michelle's let me know she's here. Let me know that you've joined us, and let me know how you're feeling about kicking off 2023. I have a feeling that I am not the only one who got a little bit lost in the shuffle at the end of December and didn't really have an opportunity to sit down and focus on how I want to wrap up 2022 and kick off 2023. And so I'm feeling pressured. All of this talk by everyone in the world about the new year and resolutions or intentions. Where do I want to focus my energy for 2023? You know what? Somehow I just kind of haven't gotten there yet. And I allowed that to get to me yesterday. I allowed myself to shift into that space of feeling behind the eight ball, not as organized as everyone else, not as prepared to take on this new year, and feeling adrift. And I allowed myself to just marinate in this space of disorganized, not so much chaos, not so much focused. And I allowed it to concern me and to bring me down. And all of a sudden, yesterday afternoon, at some point, I was in the kitchen making bread because that was my solution. Making bread was going to fix everything, right? That's my stress point. When I get stressed out, I clean or I cook because I can control those things. And I'm in the kitchen and I'm making bread, and I thought, you know what? That's okay. It's okay to just be in this space of standing still. Maybe what I really needed to do for myself was have a day. It was the first 24 hours in almost 4 full weeks that I didn't have something on the schedule, somewhere to be, someone else's needs to focus on. Now, don't get me wrong. I am honored to have been able to help my family, more specifically my father, in the ways that I was called upon to serve him and to be of service to his spirit and with spirit and through spirit. That was all consuming. And that's where I needed to be. I wouldn't have chosen to be anyplace else. But I had this sudden feeling of unpreparedness and being adrift and not ready to take on 2023. I didn't have a new focal point. I didn't have plans. I didn't have something I wanted to achieve in 2023, because you know what? The way 2022, thank you, Mike, the way 2022 ended was the way it was supposed to end. And how do I know that? Because that's what happened. It was another time of jump in and hang on, because spirit's got another idea of what needs to be happening in your world. Get out of the driver's seat, jump in the passenger seat, and see where it goes. But I'll tell you what, when inspiration hits, it's game over, y'all. One small, seemingly small shift, whether it's a shift in perception, a physical change in environment, change in mindset, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how small it is either, because once we make that one tiny shift, other things follow. Mike comes up and he says, you nailed it. Keyword myself. I like that idea, Mike. Thanks. 2023 does need a focal point. It's going to have several focal points. We don't necessarily get to completely control where we focus our energy, where we focus our thoughts 24/7. Sometimes stuff just pops in, and sometimes it's from spirit. Sometimes it's out of anxiety. Sometimes it's out of stress. It's okay. Wherever it comes in from is okay. It deserves some attention. But those things are centered and anchored in self, myself, yourself, the universal self. What do others need? What am I being called on to deliver? What am I being called on to deliver for myself? Where does my attention need to go? Your timing is your timing. Just because 72,000 other people we don't all know 72,000 people, but sometimes it feels like everyone else in the world has an agenda, has a plan. And I don't. Guess what? You do. It'll show up when you're ready. Pose the question and be curious about what shows up. Leave the door as wide open as you possibly can, because you never know what's going to hit. And then you can hang out and bounce it around. Hey, good morning. I love that you're here. I don't care if you're late. The fact that you're here adds fabulous energy to our show, and I appreciate you showing up. It's the serving point for yourself. What feels different or no longer feels as though it's serving your highest good or helping you to reach your highest potential may not rear its head according to some calendar, according to what everyone else says they think you should be doing. It'll show up when it's time for it to show up for you. Do you ever notice that when you grab a hold of something you want to let go of and then drain it so fully you seem to choke the life out of it and it disappears? And you think, I've got this great white canvas and I can paint anything I want to on it. And you start painting, and then your subconscious comes in and it says, it's time to panic because subconsciously I'm not ready to let go of this, or I'm not ready to step into this new thing. Your subconscious can be such an amazing, interesting trigger. But maybe your subconscious just needs a few minutes or a few days or a couple of weeks to catch up with the rest of you. I'm going to leave you all sit with that thought for just a minute. Give your subconscious time to marinate on that thought, because it can show up and really monkey wrench the works, can't it? I'm going to give you guys just a minute to think about that. Grab something to drink, grab your water, grab your tea. I got my tea. I got my favorite mug. I am good to go. You are watching The Self-Care Show. I'm Deidre Sanford, and we are on WLTK-DB.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. Ellie Weisensel's psychic medium is a medical intuitive that specializes as a body code practitioner. As an energy healer, Ellie offers additional services that allow her modalities to be intertwined with energetic healing. Within your subconscious lies information that knows everything about you and why you deal with specific conditions. The subconscious can be considered the blueprint to your entire body. With Ellie working physically with your subconscious mind, we detect what negative emotions are trapped and where they are stored within the body that is causing you your emotional and physical pain. This work is designed to remove imbalances and correct them energetically, getting to the root cause of why you have your condition, to help balance your body so it may heal itself. Your body is infinitely wise and wants to be in balance. The body code is not only gentle for humans, but it is also a gentle process to help animals. For more information, contact Ellie Weisensel at the website below.
And we are back. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning, y'all. I am so glad to have all of you here with us today. We're talking about plans, intentions, goals, making the shift from the new year and not feeling absolutely crushed by what everyone else is doing and perhaps your unpreparedness to take those same steps at the same time. Everything happens in its own time, and that can be so frustrating. I was just saying earlier that I fell into the trap yesterday of pressure, expectation. And at the end of 2022 got nuts. And I lost track. I lost track of me. but I was also very much me and very much myself. I just wasn't my programmed me, living my scheduled life, going to work, doing this show. That kind of fell off my radar as well, partly in my control and partly not. Yeah, the station hiatus was great for everybody, especially Todd, who drives himself insane running this station and doing such a beautiful job, being so readily available to all of us as hosts and guests and viewers. But he needed time for himself and his family. And I'm so happy that he was able to give himself that time. It jumped off my program schedule. I didn't have too many places to be over the last couple of weeks of the month, except either here in my home in the Chicago area or in Northwest Arkansas. I have family in Northwest Arkansas, and they needed my time. They needed my attention. They needed my presence. They needed my energy worker abilities. And there are those times when all we can do is sit and wait and sit and support, show solidarity, lend our energy to a situation. Yes, the wait is difficult, and you're absolutely right. It is essential. And I'm reading your comments, and I love it. Hey, Sherry, thanks for coming in to see us. I love when you get a chance to jump into the show. Yes, we are all happy, I think, that it's off to a new year. Yes, the universe will show you when you are ready, and it will show me when I am ready. But I lost track of that thought. All I could do was sit next to a hospital bed and be there and hand off water and hand off urinals and move blankets and reposition bodies and just be a support for the rest of my family. And that's okay. It's exactly where I needed to be. And it's exactly what I needed to be doing. Everything else fell away. And that was my focus. Not even myself. 27-hour shifts at the hospital. We traded off a little bit. And it was an honor to be able to help with that. And for those of you who are interested in knowing, I know Michelle brought it up as she introed the show on the 28th. Yes, I had mentioned it was my father who was in the hospital. He still is my father. He is getting out of the hospital and going on to physical therapy and some rehab. So he is absolutely on the upswing. Thank you to those of you who were able to send prayers and well wishes and positive energy. It's much appreciated. So I know we're kind of going all over the map a little bit this morning. It kind of works that way, right? No matter what our brains consciously choose in any given moment, we can always choose differently. And if we don't, and spirit or the universe thinks that we should, they'll make the change for us, right? They'll either send in some person, some event, something that takes your attention off of where you thought you were sending your focus. It says, oh no, left turn, no turn signal, but left turn, and we're going this way now. So all we can do is jump in and hang on and go for the ride. So when we're trying to set intentions, I've been trying to set intentions, I got nothing. So to me, that means stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep moving forward step by step, day by day, and see what shows up. And that's all we can do. If we hang on so tightly to our conscious choices and try to force square pegs in round holes, we're going to end up with a lot of frustration and a lot of muck on our hands. So sometimes we got to loosen our grip, sit back, relax, take a deep breath, stay the course, and just wait and see what happens. There are so many practitioners of so many different modalities, so many folks who are available and ready and just waiting for us to so that they can assist us on our paths. And yes, homeostasis, Sherry, it's awesome. Oh, Mary, I love that your daughter comes in to lead you. That is so awesome. Relying on the support of spirit in whatever form spirit shows up. It may be an ancestor. It may just be universal energies. It may be a thought in the back of your mind and you're not sure where it came from. We just need to pay attention. So many practitioners in so many modalities. And those of you who are with us weekly already know that that's what this show is about. Alternative healing methods, alternative modalities, alternative simply meaning not mainstream, not the way that we have probably been raised to think that we're going to find help and find direction. Absolutely. Our licensed clinical social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists, they are all of value. We already talked once on this show. We're not here to badmouth Western medicine and the traditional routes that we've all been raised to follow, but we are here to promote and talk about and widen our knowledge and understanding, excuse me, of the alternative things that show up. And alternative just simply means it's different. It's other than. WLTK-DB has taken on a new person, not just as a host, but also as a producer, working backstage. And Mike Hatcher has brought his own show here, or is creating his own show as spirit leads him to do so. And he's also was on last night, Diet Renee's unfiltered show. Let's bring Mike Hatcher into chat and visit with us this morning. I know it's a little bit of a turn. Hey, Mike, it's a little bit of a different thing between what was scheduled for today. Mike's been gracious enough to step in. Our guest has had some difficulties and has been unable to join us. Thanks for jumping in, Mike.
I had nothing planned except running your show, so what better than
just like what we're talking about. Spirit has other ideas. Maybe Mike,
right.
what our viewers and what I even needed this morning was a little bit of Mike Hatcher coming in to help us figure out how we can help ourselves navigate 2023.
This was totally unexpected. This morning, my wife, you're talking about New Year's resolutions, and then there's me. I had a New Year's resolution, and it was, start working out, exercising, but I didn't crawl out of bed till like 8 o'clock. My wife's down in the basement. She's like, come on, you said you're going to do this with me. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, no. And I log in and I'm like, hey, you're filling in as a guest on the show. And I do got to say, again, big thanks to Todd. Todd really opened his arms and heart to, allow me to help and let me move my screen. I have two screens here, so it looks like I'm not looking at you guys when I am. There we go. That's better. Now I can see you. But Todd does amazing work with this station, and I sent him a message and I said, Todd, you know what? I want to help. And it's not about money. It's not about anything. It's just the person I am. I love helping. I put my name on things, and if it's got a path and it's going good and it looks great, I'm gonna do the best I can to help. And I'm definitely glad to be on yet another show today.
Just one more show this week. Why not? Let's throw you out there. Really make you part of the family.
Well, that's and that goes along with what you were talking about earlier. Is when you change one thing about your life or your path or whatever you have going on, other things fall into play. Yeah. Things start changing. I know last year I was struggling. I know a lot of your listeners don't really know a lot about me. I am a paranormal investigator. I am a certified life coach, shadow work practitioner, filmmaker. I am executive producer of Paraflix. So I'm busy. But I take the time out of my day to do stuff like this. And last year I was struggling to get on podcasts, because it's oversaturated with investigators. It's oversaturated with filmmakers. I took a step away from paranormal and started working on myself. And this year, my calendar's booked with interviews and podcasts just because, I changed my mindset. I changed the person I was, and it's done wonders.
It's amazing, right? I mean, as to your point, and like back to what I was saying before, it doesn't have to be a huge change that we consciously make.
Nope. It could be the smallest decision.
And it starts the cascade. And thank you for bringing up all these different aspects of you, because that's where I was going to go next is let's talk about your shadow work and your life coaching and bring some of those ideas more to the forefront.
I know I'm sure a lot of people that watch you, they know what shadow work is. So I don't think I have to dive too much into what it is.
That's actually what I wanted to bring more in and explain more about what it is and what it is to you more specifically as a life coach and practitioner. Gotcha.
It all fell, to be honest, it all fell just into my lap one day. I was struggling with alcohol addiction. I was struggling with depression, anxiety, on the verge of a divorce. And if you want to know the full story on why I got into life coaching and why I got into shadow work, I did an interview on the 3rd of January with Deidre, actually, and I explained the entire.
Oh, cool.
I got personal, very private. So if you want to listen to that, you can. But on the verge of a divorce, and I've struggled with anger issues. I've struggled with, attachment, love, even in my marriage. And I started realizing after doing some shadow work that, let me turn my heater off real quick. It's super toasty.
Can't be freezing. So anybody who wants to go back and recapture or view that episode of the show that Mike's talking about with Diet, that was, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, on Diet's Schooled Through Spirit Monday morning show at 9 a.m.?
Yes, that was the December 26th. I'm sorry, not the 3rd. That was yesterday.
So
my time is, I don't even know what's going on.
I'm in that space. I get it.
But to me, shadow work, like I said, it all fell in my lap. I was trying to find ways, one of the last fights my wife and I got into a big argument. And I hate to admit the police were called. It was bad. And the next morning I looked at my wife, I apologized. And like, the one thing about me is I've never been physical with my wife, ever. We did get into some heated arguments, but the next day she looked at me and she goes, "What would you do if your daughter brought home a man like you?" And my daughter is my entire world. That girl, my wife tells me, she goes, "You didn't want that girl. You needed her." And I did. I needed this girl in my life. She'll be 4 on the 25th of this month. And I changed everything about me. I started studying shadow work and how, I guess I could say why. So during the midst of the fighting and arguing with my wife and I would always drink. I'd go outside. I'd have a beer with me constantly. And one night I was out there. I was drinking by myself, sitting on the back patio table. And I saw this black figure just run across my yard. And I'm looking at it, and no features, just this black figure runs across the back of my yard. Next day, same thing. We weren't arguing. Our arguments weren't like 3-4 days long. But the next night, I was just relaxing, drinking a beer. Except this time, I saw the figure peek around the corner of my house.
Ooh.
Tall. And so the next night, same thing. I'm sitting at the patio table drinking a beer, and this thing's hovering over just behind me, like it's saying, "Hey,
yeah,
I'm going to take over. I'm here." So then I started reading shadow work and understanding what it is, understanding your past life, understanding past curses, family curses, things that the best way I describe your shadow is it's your basement. It is all the dark, ugly things. What do we use our basements for? Those that live in Florida or California, you don't know what a basement is. But in Ohio and northern states where it doesn't flood, we have basements. And what do we do with those basements? That's where we throw our dirty laundry we don't want anybody to see. That's where we hide all of our photos. We hide our past. And it's dark, it's grungy, it's dirty, it's musty. And there's also hidden talents that you used to have, like painting. That's where we throw everything. We don't want anybody to see. But when you get down there and you clean it, you start bringing it to life. You start showing it appreciation. You start saying, "Hey, this was once a part of me." And that, you even look back at Norse mythology. You look at ancient times and Indians. What did they used to do? They used to have sacrifices, rituals for alcohol gods, drug gods, just every god you'd grasp, every god you could think of, they were acknowledging and having parties and showing appreciation. And if you didn't show appreciation, guess what? They took over and they destroyed your life.
Yeah.
That's what shadow work is. If you do not contain it, you do not show appreciation, it's going to rear its big, ugly head and just say, F you, this is what I'm going to do to you.
Yep.
And that's what it did for me.
Yep. Reincorporating those pieces of ourselves and these parts of our personalities that we don't want to look at. We don't.
Right. And it's like what you were talking about was your subconscious.
Yeah.
You know, you have the 3 levels. You have your subconscious, you got your pre-subconscious, and you got your conscious. And I like to tell people to think of it as an iceberg. Yeah. You have everything underneath that you can't see.
Right.
That's what's controlling you. And you have everything above that you can see that you're ignoring. And then you hit it. And it's everything underneath that really is what fucked you up.
Right. Right. Was it? They say we use 10 to 5% of the tip of the iceberg, our conscious mind, but 95% of everything that we do, say, think, feel is driven by our subconscious or unconscious mind. On that note, I'm going to take a quick station break. You are watching Self-Care on WLTK-DB, and we will be right back.
Want to keep up with the latest at the station? How about catch up on your favorite shows on the go? Download the free WLTK-DB mobile app on the App Store and Google Play. Watch, listen, and shop right from the palm of your hand. The WLTK-DB mobile app. The truth is here and now. Get yours today.
Welcome back. Mike, we're talking about. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I was looking at this comment here. I'm going to show it. I do have controls backstage.
Okay,
exactly what we're talking about.
Yep,
your guides guide you for a reason. I'm not, when I was talking earlier about getting up and exercising with my wife, I may be a little late to that, but, I still have days I sit back and I go, you know what? And this is the life coach coming out of me is, would I rather spend a half hour exercising, or would I rather get up and spend a half hour doing business? Right. Or, so that's a hard thing to really focus on.
It is. It's hard to differentiate, but at the end of the day, folks like most of the hosts on this show, you, me, and everyone else too, in different aspects, when we invest in ourselves, we are investing in our businesses. We are investing in the rest of our lives. My stepmom got sick during those 2 weeks. I was jumping back and forth from Illinois to Arkansas to help take care of my dad. And in part, she got sick because she drove herself so far beyond empty. She got sick and her body said, no, you need to rest.
Emotional burnout.
Right. Physical and emotional burnout as well.
It's more, and that's, you were talking about the show with Dayette and I on Unfiltered. We're actually restructuring that show to be the medium and the life coach, guiding people. And I think it's something phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. I was on for, probably the first 15, 20 minutes. And Dad's like, hey, do you have a question? And I thought, well, yeah, I've got like 62 of them and there's way too much to get into right here. And I'm just going to bump out of the show because I really was in that space yesterday of down on myself, down on the world. And you know what? I'm just like everybody else. I've got those days and I let myself just get in and marinate in it so I can clear it. Again,
it's the same. Exactly. It's the same as being a life coach. A lot of people look at coaches and say, well, you're a life coach. You're supposed to be happy. They're supposed to be happy 24/7, 400 days out of the year. Like nothing is allowed. Not true. You know, we're still humans. We still have emotion. We just understand how to get through it and not let it hold us back. That's the only difference.
Yeah, there are so many different ways for us to navigate as practitioners, as clients, as just general human beings. So many different ways to navigate that. And then back to your previous statements, or all of them, I guess, subconscious, unconscious mind drives everything. If we're ignoring what's coming up, if we're pretending it's not there, and we shove it all down, just like our emotions, right? If we shove it all down, then we have these piles and layers of gobbledygook that we got to go through. So let's pull it out and look at it.
Are you referring to just saying, hey, let's just get over everything and pretend it's not there? Or
yeah, kind of.
Because that's pretty much what I did. You want honesty and truth. A lot of coaching, we can't go to the past and bring it up because we're not therapists. Life coaches are not allowed to help you deal with your past. Shadow workers can, but you're treading a little lightly. Now, there's no education required. There's no education, no degree required for life coaching or shadow work. Technically, you don't even need certified. It just looks good. Truth be told, it just looks good. So anybody can become a life coach. You don't need certification. You don't need schooling. You just got to know where to draw that line between therapy and coaching. So one of the things I noticed, and listening to other podcasts, listening to speakers, was, and I'm working on becoming a speaker myself. That's a whole nother thing I'm learning. Like, I'm not 110% there. I'm still anxiety ridden when it comes to getting in front of people. But what I did was, when you start studying shadow work and you start studying life coaching, you realize that a lot of people say that you have 60,000 thoughts that run through your mind per day. And you don't really remember majority of them. Now, studies have shown that our mind is so powerful that majority of our past didn't actually happen the way we talk about it.
Yes.
Your brain doesn't know what's true and your brain doesn't know what's fake. You do. So your subconscious thoughts are what's feeding your conscious mind.
Right.
So when you get down to your subconscious thoughts, you got to replace those beliefs. And that's the whole, the process. You know, as I was going through this process and doing this, you know, there was one memory I had as a child. And one of the things I did throughout this entire life coaching and shadow work process was, and it was the hardest thing to do, forgive my mom. Hardest thing to do. But I did. And one of the things I had to talk to my mom about and I had to bring up was something that happened in the past. And she looked at me and goes, I don't remember it that way.
Yeah.
Now, you don't know if that's true. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But guess what? That's on your mind to decide. Are you going to stick with how you felt, let it keep dragging you down? Or are you going to say, maybe she's right. Maybe it wasn't that way. And as you start replacing these thoughts and these feelings, I went back and started looking at a lot of the things, the negative things in my past, and I had no emotion attached to them, none.
Wow.
So I started thinking, I'm like, it is, because they say, when you study neuroplasticity, they say that studies have shown that your mind after 25 cannot be changed. That's your habit, that's your life, that's just the way you work. I'm 37, and they're 10 years past what studies, 12 years past what studies have shown. So that's pretty much where I'm at now, is saying, hey, it's possible.
It is.
You got to find the positive reasons behind all the negative, like earlier, what got you here, why you're here. And
you made a super valid, I made a couple of super valid points that I just kind of want to get back to for a second. Our memory is not nearly as reliable as we have been led throughout our lives to believe. Our memory is fed through our emotional lenses. And And everybody involved in a situation is going to see, perceive, and remember that event differently. If you take 3 or 4 kids, or even just 2 children of the same parents who grew up in the same household with seemingly the same household events, right? Every one of those kids is going to tell you they were raised by different parents. If you really sit down and get to it.
I could attest to that 110%.
And then you're talking about limiting beliefs. And that's actually, we had very briefly touched on, hey, what does Deidre do? What does Mike do? And let's chat. This is kind of an opportunity to do that. With root cause therapy, our goal is to help our clients work with reframing those limiting beliefs that are driving us or standing in our way. Addiction, some mental health diagnoses are driven more by memories and emotions. I think you kind of touched on, it was my thoughts. I have this mental health diagnosis, and it really isn't necessarily as ingrained as a part of me, and it shouldn't maybe be a diagnosis. But so many things in our lives can be unraveled, changed, shifted, perceptions, outlooks, goals can be reached when we have the opportunity to reframe those limiting beliefs. Where did they come from? Some of them aren't even ours.
They're not, absolutely. The other thing that I reiterate to everybody and I say is, your reality is here. Your reality is not what you see. Your reality is not what you see on Facebook. It's here. And one of the things that I started implementing in my marriage is one, and you hear it all the time. Everybody says, never go to bed angry, never go to bed mad. I used to. And then guess what? I woke up still mad at my wife for something that happened at 5:00 p.m. the day before. It's pointless. If you wake up in that negative attitude, it's going to carry throughout the day. Your mind is going to make you believe everything is going wrong. And I use the metaphor of driving, like you're driving to work. So I'm pretty sure this happens to everybody. We drive to work, somebody cuts us off. Guess what? We get pissed off about it.
Yep.
So then what? You go to work, or no, I'm sorry. That's a good one. But the one I like to use the most is your kid's running late for school, and you are running late for work. But your child's education is a little bit more important than running late for work. So you take your kid to school. He's running late. Guess what? You're angry at your kid. Somebody cuts you off on the way after dropping your kid off to school to work, which you're already running late, which makes you more mad. And then you go to work and everybody there is in a great mood. Everybody's positive except you. So your mind is going to find every scenario to keep you angry all day. But if you wake up in that positive attitude, that positive mood, you're untouchable. Nothing can make you mad. Because, and this is what I tell everybody, nothing makes you mad. The only thing that makes you mad is your emotions on the situation. That's it.
Yep.
You have that choice on whether or not you're going to be mad or pissed off. Nothing else. The situation doesn't make you mad. You do.
And we're not taught to talk about, this is interesting. We're not taught to talk about our emotions, most of us. We're not taught how to name an emotion. So many of us are walking through life unable to express how we feel.
Right. But and you bring that up, and the sad thing is we're not taught any of that as children.
Right.
The only thing we're taught is what our elders are doing, what everybody around us is doing. And in my house, the one thing about my house growing up is there was no correctional consequences. There was no correction. If you were in trouble for doing something bad, you're in trouble for doing something bad, and you just better not do it again.
Right.
There wasn't no, it's okay, this happens, it's understandable. It was, you're grounded, go to your room. Mm-hmm. No, this is how we can fix it. This is how we can move further. And that's how I was in the beginning of my marriage and my relationship.
Yeah.
Now I'm not. Now I completely understand.
Well, and Sherry has a good point. She just popped in that most guys are taught not to cry, period. And you know what?
That is key number one.
Yep.
And why I got into shadow work. Key number one is when men are told they are not allowed to have emotion, guess what? All that love, everything that they feel for people, themselves, things, that is deep inside their shadow.
Yeah. And
and that's rule number one.
It's so hard to combat that or to learn to overcome it or work through that as adults. Because, as you said, at a certain point in our lives, it's so much more difficult for us to change because things are ingrained. And especially when they're things that we absorbed as littles in our delta state, when we're just big sponges and everything comes through, we don't have filters. We don't have a way to frame those things. I think it's amazing, Sherry, that you were able to help your boys identify those emotions, work with it, and allow them to release that through their tears. I have always said it takes a stronger man to cry, to own it, to deal with it, to release it, than it does to just push it down. Because of the fact that society doesn't teach us, and little girls either, but harder on boys, doesn't teach us to express these things, to talk through them. There's just not that open door. We're actually currently watching in my household, oh, darn it, I can't think of her name, Brene Brown, there it is, Atlas of the Heart. And I think it's amazing what she's doing. We've only seen the first couple of episodes, but she helps viewers, the people in her audience, give names to emotions and understand what those emotions really are. So once we can name them, it helps us to discuss. But in addition to that, we also need to learn to identify for ourselves what those emotions mean. What does that emotion feel like in my body? And in my practice, if we can find where that emotion is in our body, what it feels like inside of us, that can help us get that closer to it, to express it.
A lot of times, what I did for that's the exact thing I did, is I put names on things.
Yeah.
And the names that I chose were my parents. It's every time this nasty, ugly thing came up, I'd be like, Mom, stop. Mm-hmm. Dad, stop. Because that's who, in my mind, I knew taught me that. Or I saw that from. Right. And I knew it was coming from. And I'm just like, stop. I know you're here. Stop.
Oh, that's funny, because I was going to say, when we're learning to go through this process, this somatic experiencing, identifying, and then labeling, who cares what name we give it in the moment as we're learning to identify and work with that emotion. Eventually, we need to find a more communal name that's universally understood if we want others to understand. But in that moment, give it a name, call it bookshelf or dragon or whatever, who cares? You now have a name. We now have a name that a label we can put on it so that we can work with it. And then the next step would be
it's the same as
learning to talk about it.
Right. And it's the same as I was studying demonology for a while. It's the same as working with spirits, or especially demons or anything demonic. When you know their name, you have power over it.
Power. Mm-hmm.
So when you give a name to something, you have the power over it. And there was another thing. Oh, the one thing that I didn't really discuss about shadow work that I think everybody really needs to know is, anytime, like, I no longer have pet peeves. I got over my pet peeves. And here's why, is because when you look at somebody, like, for instance, I can just pull somebody up out of the chat, say, hey, Sherry, you talk too much. I don't like the way you handle yourself. I don't like this. I don't like that. What our shadow is telling us is those are things that we need to resolve within ourselves.
Yes.
Which means we do the same thing.
Right.
And I've been coaching and teaching a few people about shadow work, and they'll message me and they'll be like, so I was at work today and this guy did this. And then I stopped myself and was like, holy shit, I've done that same thing. Maybe I should work on it. That's really, once you understand that, then you'll start looking at people in a whole different light. It's like, nothing bothers me anymore. I'm like, that's you. You got to work on your own shit. I'm here. I've worked on mine, but guess what? We're still going to be friends, and there's nothing I can do to change it until you change yourself.
It's amazing, isn't it? When we start to identify those, and when we look at things through the mirror, right? Because they say people show up in our lives as a reflection of us. they show us things that we don't want to look at in ourselves. And when we turn the table on ourselves, instead of projecting that dislike or inability to cope with in other people, and we can look at ourselves and say, oh, wait a minute. Do I do
I've
that?
done this
I
too.
do that?
I'm the same way. Yep.
Yeah. Wait, what is Sherry saying? Oh my gosh, we all have those little things. Sherry, that one's kind of like we throw stuff like when I go to bed at night, my clothes go on the chair. And it probably drives my husband insane because in that respect, he is more fastidious than I. And it may be the next day before I finally pick him up and throw him in the hamper. But I'm really picking him up, throwing him in the hamper so I can make room for that day's clothes.
Right.
So yeah, but he's really good about it. He never says a word. It just is what it is, and he lets it go. It's funny how we do that.
Sometimes you just gotta let shit go.
Sometimes, and sometimes it serves us only in the moment, but we think it serves us in the moment, and then we can kick back later, hopefully, as we go through our own growth and development patterns and realize that, that didn't serve me at all. I'm holding on to this anger and frustration over something someone else did or said. But while I was so busy being focused on my anger and my frustration, what did I miss in my life?
Right. I could have been doing this. I could have been doing that. And that goes back to a post I actually put on Facebook today about depression and tips to deal with depression. And one of the things that I was so adamant about was if you are struggling with depression and you're really, really depressed, get off social media, quit posting about it. Like, that's a hard truth. I'm sorry. I understand we post it because we want to think people care. We want to think, we go to Facebook for reassurance for somebody that lives 3,000 miles away, and the loves, the prayers, the sending thoughts, that doesn't do nothing. All you're doing is you're taking all that time out of your day to post about how you feel when you could be off social media, get out in front of your screen, go spend 5 minutes in the sun. It's all you need. But you're spending those 5 minutes commenting on posts that somebody, sending love. That, to me, that is not therapy. That is not help. That's, just as somebody who had suicidal thoughts and as somebody who struggled with depression my entire life, I very rarely posted it on social media. It's a very private thing. And to me, those people that throw it out on Facebook, they're just looking for attention. Honestly, I could get some backlash on that, I'm sure.
Probably.
But that's just my opinion.
Sometimes we all need that extra push, the extra piece of support, and sometimes that
do.
mollifies us for a time.
And you do.
Very rarely.
It's that dopamine, it's that self-gratification that you need, but you're getting it from somebody somewhere else, but you're not giving it to yourself.
Exactly.
That's the problem. Go give it to yourself. Go outside, stand in the sun, get some vitamin D. They do say 2 to 5 minutes a day at 10 a.m. in the morning is the best time to get vitamin D. Do not wear sunglasses. Rule number 1.
Or my transitions glasses, because they darken on their own. We're not.
My wife has those, and they're weird.
Especially when it's cold, they take forever to come back to clear.
Oh, she complains about how the ears get.
When we have some place to write about our feelings, write about our turmoil, our depression, our suicidal thoughts, been there. That's one thing. When we throw it out on social media, we're probably not going to get a response from someone that's genuinely helpful or someone that can walk with us as we allow those thoughts to circle and circle and circle and try to find our way out. We're probably not going to find the best support system. It is a moment in time where we can throw out how we feel and let go of it. But most of that's going to be better off in a journal.
But as somebody who's been depressed, the last thing I ever did was got on my phone. If you're depressed, you're depressed. You're sitting, huddling on the couch watching, what was my favorite, Martian Child, or, anything with John Cusack that was what I did when I was depressed.
Serendipity.
I wasn't on social media.
No, because I wasn't organized enough within myself and within my thoughts and within my emotions to actually get it together and post it in a comprehensive way. that really would
Right.
get across what I was thinking and feeling. I get that. So, Mike, if somebody wanted to reach out for you for some guidance, some shadow work assistance, or some life coaching direction, how would they find you?
You can search me on Facebook, Mike
There you
Hatcher.
go.
I use Instagram and Twitter, but honestly, maybe once in a while. I too unorganized to do every social media platform.
Right.
You know, it's just so confusing how they run them together now. I can't even keep up with the technology. But yeah, just find me on Facebook. You know, I do have another Facebook page. I actually don't even know what it is, but I post on it every day.
Speaking of having too many things, too many socials to juggle and keep track of, I get that.
I do have a life coaching page. It's you have to get back to me on that one. I don't know the code. I don't know the URL. But if you here we go.
Just go look for Mike.
If you come across this picture, there you go.
Are you upside down in the picture?
Yeah, just shoot me a message. I'm always open. I'm an open ear. You know, I tell a lot of my friends, hey, if you have even a voice message you want to send, if you're down, you need help, or you use my messages as a diary or a journal. If you want to send a voice recording on how you feel that day, please just before you send it, put do not listen. This is just how I feel.
Yep.
And I respect everybody's privacy. I will not listen. That's just what my messages are for. I've been through this. You know, I see coaches out there that are charging $10,000-$20,000 for a 6-month session.
Can't wrap my head around that.
That is insane.
Yeah.
As somebody who's struggled with depression and changes my own life, all of the resources to do this are free. It's all free. It's all over YouTube. You can find it. You can do it yourself. So I'm super cheap. I don't charge $10,000, $20,000. Hell, you can get me on a good day and it's free. I don't care. I want to help. So yeah, I know what it's like for insurance therapists to not accept your insurance. Life coaching doesn't accept insurance, so everything comes out of pocket.
Right.
And I know what it's like to need that help. So I'm here. Please message me.
Yay. Mike, I'm so happy that you were able to step up and take over as the guest on the show today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your help. I'm really, really happy to know that you're going to be with us moving forward in the production and here at WLTK-DB as well.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for saying, Mike, come do this.
Yay!
I didn't have a choice.
Well, thanks for stepping up.
I'm just kidding. I loved it. It was great.
Let's just throw you in and put your feet in the fire. Ready to go.
That's how you got to do it sometimes, right?
Your game. Hey, Spirit put us here for a reason, right? All right.
Absolutely.
We have run over our suggested time frame for today's show. Mike's been a fabulous guest. Thank you so much. I've talked before on the show about this being a safe place for everyone to share stories and to be vulnerable. And Mike really brought that home today in a big way. We have got all kinds of new shows here at WLTK-DB. Today is Wednesday. We kicked off the show with the Self-Care Show and your host, Deidre Sanford. Later on this afternoon, Kelly Brickle's coming in at 3:00 with the Psychic Hour. And today is a reading show, y'all. So jump in, get those questions ready for Miss Kelly. She is amazing. And I can say that now with a lot more authority, having had the chance to actually meet and work with her. Seeing Beyond with Kelly Eckhart and Cheryl Murphy comes in at 6:00. And then tomorrow morning, we start all over again with Chat with Charlie and your host, Stephanie Lynn, at 9. Tyson's Gifts with Brandon Wainwright is up at 6, followed by Realm of Darkness with Renee and Ashley at 7. And then also running on to The Voice of Oneness with Amora Bronet at 10 p.m. All those things are happening here in the next 24 hours on WLTK-DB. Thanks, everyone, for hanging in with us today. Sherry, it was fantastic to see you. Michelle, thanks for coming back over to see us as well. And MK, we've got so many of our regulars popping back in to join us week after week, and I cannot express my appreciation enough. Guys, if there's something that you want to see or hear on this show, please, please, please let me know. We exist for you. You guys are, and of course, the hosts are what make this show actually happen week after week. Send ideas, questions, comments, and concerns to me at contactme@DeidreLSanford.com. It's DEIDREL. S as in Sam, A, N as in Nancy, F as in Frank, O-R-D as in David for our podcast listeners. Thank you so much. Welcome to 2023, kicking off the year. Enjoy the rest of your week. This has been the Self-Care Show with Deidre Sanford on WLTK-DB.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.